Take a good look at this painting, because there's so much going on here. At first, you might have noticed this man who is sleeping, or perhaps passed out. We can't really say. Then you look at this neatly dressed and quite unimpressed woman looking at our sleeping beauty here. Again, the way she's looking at him is confusing. It looks like she either loves him or just hates him to the bone. I just know that I wouldn't want anyone to look at me like that. And if this scene was not confusing already, we got these guys here. These babies with goat horns and legs seem to be having a great time. I mean, this guy is so high that he has transcended reality. Hang in there, buddy. So, what are we looking at? Well, it's art detective time. This painting is called Venus and Mars, and it was painted by the famous Italian painter Sandro Botticelli. Don't know him? Don't worry. You might have seen this painting. It's his most famous work. He was kind of a big shot artist of his time. He even painted the Sistine Chapel, which was kind of getting like the Nobel Prize in art at that time. But anyways, back to the painting. Okay, so we have Venus sitting here and Mars sleeping here. Not the planets, but it was the other way around. The planets were named after the gods, and these gods have some wild personalities. The scene here shows moments after Mars and Venus's love-making time. Mars is totally exhausted and completely out, I get it. And Venus, Venus is not too happy about it. But this interpretation is on the surface level. As you keep looking at this painting, you start finding more hidden meaning behind the artwork. Now, before we get started with the metaphor, Venus is the Roman god of love, and Mars is the Roman god of war. This is important to note because the first metaphor here is love is more powerful than war. I mean, you can see that, right? It's a funny representation of the powerful god of war, lying limp, unable to do anything. He's barely in his senses. But don't get too excited for love, as Venus here is actually cheating on her husband. Now, Mars and Venus are not married, although poets and artists have always put them together for the metaphor. Now, Venus was quite promiscuous, as she has had many affairs. And unfortunately, this might be because her husband, Vulcan, the god of forge, is not that much of a looker. Vulcan was an ugly god. He was mocked by other gods for being ugly, and he could not even move properly because he had some deformities. Wow. And Venus was never happy with him. What's even worse is that Vulcan knew about her affairs, including this one right here. In one of the stories, it is said that he made a very light net made of chain and then slowly laid it down on them while they were doing it. And once he trapped them, he called all the other gods who laughed at them. I mean, I really, I kind of get why he would do that. He was the ironsmith of gods, which means that the lance and the armor of Mars that you see here, it was made by Vulcan. This is not the kind of thanks one would expect for their hard work. Okay, here's something unrelated. Do you think when she gets home, Vulcan is like, Venus, stop this for the love of God, for you are the god of love. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I had to say this. Please don't unsubscribe. Here's another interesting aspect. Since they're not married, Mars is also cheating on his wife, who is Nereu. Now, Nereu is considered to be the god of strength. She's in fact the source of strength for Mars. And you can see how the artist has visually depicted her absence. Without his wife, Mars, the fearsome god of war, is lying weak and vulnerable. These fawns have taken his lance and helmet. One guy is inside his chest plate. The strong god of war, taken over by 4 goat babies. Now, these goat babies creatures, they're called fawns, and these are an interesting addition to the scene. During the Renaissance era, when artists portrayed Venus, they made sure to add Cupid in the scene as well. But Botticelli went with something different. These creatures can also be called satyrs, which are the Greek counterpart of fawns. Now, satyrs are like fawns if you remove all the cuteness here, if there is any, and add something really absurd. So, here's something. Take a look at the visually accurate description of a satyr. Yeah, I don't think anyone would want to hang a painting of that in their living room. So these creatures here look like a mix of satyrs, fawns, and even the god Pan, who represents fertility. Since Cupid cannot be seen here, and we know what these two have been up to, and there is a metaphor for fertility, this painting could be showing the moment Cupid was conceived. In Roman mythology, Cupid is the child of Venus and Mars. So, hey, congratulations, we just saw the birth of Cupid, while they were cheating together. Anyways, another metaphor is the plant behind Venus. This is the myrtle plant, which is used to represent Venus or love. Another great way of saying that they were engaged in a love-making session. Good job, Botticelli. Notice how the borderline annoyed Venus is looking at Mars. The lance points towards him while the satyr blows a conch near his ear. This is another way of showing that Venus wants Mars to wake up and, well, do anything other than just lying lifeless. Venus got so bored that she started dressing up, and Mars still did not wake up. Don't worry, Venus, it's not your fault. Mars does not even care about the wasps near his head. Why would he care about your frown? The wasp net is another great addition, as it is a reference to the Vespucci family, whose coat of arms were vespe, the Italian for wasps. It is also said that this painting was commissioned by the same family. This brings us to another aspect of this painting. By the way, one of the members of the family was Amerigo Vespucci. If the name sounds familiar to you, it's because America was named after him. Venus and Mars in this painting are based on real people. The man here is one of the members of the Medici family. He's not interesting, let him sleep. It's the woman who's interesting. If you look at other paintings by Botticelli, you start noticing something. It seems that the artist always chose one model for all the major female figures in his paintings. She was a real person and her name was Simonetta Vespucci. Now, this is a debated topic, with some historians saying that it wasn't Simonetta who was the artist's favorite model. But I'll let you be the judge of that. Take a look at all of these paintings and let me know if you find any similarities between these models. It makes sense why Botticelli would have Simonetta as the model. He was literally obsessed with her, and quite in a creepy way. Okay, here's an example. He had requested to be buried next to Simonetta's feet after his death. Simonetta died at the age of 23, and perhaps it was the artist's way of keeping her alive, but I don't really get why he would want to be buried next to her feet. But, to each his own. The face of Mars passed out was also inspired by me on a Monday morning. The size of the painting also gives a crucial hint about the history of this painting. This is a white painting, and it was not meant for normal galleries. This was one of the Spalliera painting. A Spalliera painting, I'm sorry Italian people if I mispronounced that, because I know I did. These paintings were wider than normal, so they could be hung above the headboard of a bed. These paintings would also act like windows to a different world and time. It also explains why Venus is just looking at Mars. Back then, women looking at handsome men or cute babies was considered to bring good luck, and by good luck they meant having male child. The annoyed expression of Venus added a humorous twist to this idea. But what if these two are not Venus and Mars, but someone else? After all, the title Venus and Mars was given in recent times. Well, no need to panic, because a Greek poet named Lucian described a painting that showed the wedding ceremony of Alexander the Great. The painting is lost now, but it did have babies called putties playing with Alexander's armor, and the description of the painting was very similar to this scene right here. Now, this doesn't mean Botticelli was actually painting a Greek king. No. Botticelli always preferred painting gods. But yeah, he must have taken inspiration from the description of the lost painting and added his own twist to it. And that was all about the painting. It's time for you to write your thoughts about it down in the comment section. Do you think the woman who modeled for Venus was the same woman in the other paintings? Let me know your answers. Until we meet next time, make sure that you have a great day ahead.